Hello and welcome to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Matthias.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I are aspiring screenwriters. We wrote screenplays. That's how it is said. But we never have gone to film school.
Exactly. So we're doing a challenge. Each week we sit down. Our goal is to write a complete short story using 3 of 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read the story, we talk about what we learned in writing it, and then we talk about stories written by you listeners.
Exactly. We're simply here to help you do the right thing.
Doof Media Production. Dope. We are joined this week by 2 guests, Joey Wennert and Colin. What's your last name?
Galoon. It's good. No worries.
Okay, I apologize. No. I did not memorize it beforehand.
That's fine.
I'm not a real host anymore. I lost my host badge. Can you guys, introduce yourselves? Tell us what's up.
You can do it first, Colin.
Well, thank you, Joey. I appreciate that.
I've been on the show before.
Okay.
Well,
as my good friend Joey said, my name is Colin. Colin Galoon, to be exact. I'm a student at the University of North Texas right now, pursuing a major in advertising and a minor in English. I am an aspiring filmmaker. I've been filmmaking since I was a very young lad. Always had the bug for creating stories and specifically filming them. That's pretty much it. I'm Joey's co-host on Keep It Short, the Short Film Club's official podcast at the University of North Texas, and where we just talk about short films that our peers have made and everything else movie-related. Joey, why don't you tell them about yourself?
I'm Joey Wennert. I make movies, and I want to make more of them, and I'm also a comedian. I'm funny sometimes.
I feel mine was a little too formal.
Yeah,
I'm not that serious.
Like, how am I gonna? I should. What I should have done is just said the exact same thing word for word what you said.
That would have been good.
Because it's almost exactly true.
Only I'm a film major and not an advertising major, which means I'm a dummy. Because it's so much smarter.
I mean, I don't want to ever say that to you, but yes, that's what I'm thinking constantly.
Oh, every time I talk, I know Colin's head is like, this guy's a dummy.
Yeah, I'm like,
such a straight dummy.
Geez.
We do Keep It Short, the podcast, which Matthias and Jarvis were on today.
About 30 minutes ago.
10
minutes ago, about.
Yeah, about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's a great movie discussion podcast, so go check it out, if only to check out our episode, and then go binge the rest. I vouch for it. I enjoyed listening to it. I mentioned before we started recording, I was listening to it and I was like, okay, they put on music this whole episode. That's interesting. Weird that the music has words. Kind of makes it hard to understand what they're saying. It's an interesting choice. And then it wasn't until I was 3/4 of the way through that I noticed I had another tab open with lo-fi beats and I just forgot to turn it off. So that was definitely a different vibe. It probably costs a lot to have music throughout an entire podcast, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, you probably have to buy the rights to that song, and probably multiple songs too. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
And we are poor.
But yeah, given the specialties of our guests, this week our theme is scripts, where we wrote script this week. So we actually we changed up the format a little bit. It was by the suggestion, I think Joey, you suggested this, where Jarvis and I and Joey and Colin collaborated on 2 scripts. So
yes,
they are co-written. So this is one of the first times I've written a script in actual script format. But of course you guys have done that plenty of times before. How was doing the right thing for you guys?
It was great. I love, Joey and I are always just constantly throwing around ideas for things. And it was fun to actually kind of sit down and actualize that. It was fun. We both just started off. I just said something, and then I was like, "This is what I've been thinking of a lot recently." And Joey was like, "Well, this is what I've been thinking of a lot recently." And then we were like, "All right." And then from there, we just kind of let it trickle down from there, and we kind of just waded through some of the better stuff until we hit on one idea that was making us both laugh, and we were like, "All right, we're gonna do this one." And then from there, everything came pretty easily.
Yeah, it was real quick. when I wrote my story for y'all, back in June.
It feels like it was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's just I'm not a fan of the year. Hot take, 2020 bad. But like, yeah, no, we sat down to do it. I had just gotten home from work, and I was like, let's sit down and just crank this out in like 20 minutes. And it was so quick. Like, the first idea we came up with is what we ended up going with, because it was just like, I was really proud of just me and Colin cracking the story for this thing really quickly, and we need to force ourselves to write more things together.
Absolutely.
Because it's a good time.
Yeah, nice. How was putting the words for this week into your story? Like, did you find any problem with it? Did the words kind of inspire what you did end up writing?
I feel like it was pretty easy for us. I think we came up with a story first and then figured out how to organically work in the words. But there's like, it's funny, like all the words are just in one like block of dialogue. Like it fits well with the the characters, or the kind of the characters world or whatever. Like all three that we picked fit very well, and it's also just funny too to just knock them all out in like the same same paragraph. Like it's a silly side note for, you know, the people who actually knew like what the words were supposed to be, because when you read the script it doesn't read like the words are out of place, but if you were looking for those specifically, you'd be like, that's hilarious, they just put them all in the same same little block of text.
I think it worked out really well too.
Yeah, definitely.
So speaking of, the words this week were credit, resource, history, and smell. So which ones did you use?
Did we use all 4?
No, we just used credit, resource, and history.
Okay. So there was no smelly things in your story.
No smell. Although we could have worked that in as well, I think.
Yeah, I think there was like a different, I think initially we were like, okay, so the first line is like, you smell or something. But I don't think we ended up putting that in there. I was going to do like a rewrite on the whole thing before this podcast, but we started recording right when I got home from work, so I didn't have time.
Oh wait, are you telling me it's just what I it's just what I wrote?
Yes, it is. No, I didn't.
Damn it, Joey! I thought you were gonna clean it up a little bit.
I was going to. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Really
it's
good
okay.
though.
It's all right. I use like the same descriptor in like the 2 following lines, but it's all right. It's basically,
it's forgivable.
Yeah, it's forgivable. It's pretty just close to what me and Joey were talking about, and I had fun.
All right, nice.
Banging it out.
And I mean, whenever you are doing the right thing, of course, whatever you do make is going to be unpolished. Like, I feel, I know Matthias probably feels the same, that everything we've written for Do the Right Thing is a unpolished turd of what it could be. So it's completely fine.
See, our show can have the crap jokes. So
that's right. Yes.
In fact, we're only crap jokes.
Speaking of, is there anything else we should know before we go into your screenplay?
I guess, yeah, like when we sat down to do it and Colin was like, so I've been thinking about the Mafia a lot recently. I want to do something where like a guy is going to kill another guy and the killer is part of the Mafia. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. What's the guy, does he have like a fun occupation? Like, is he like a party clown or something? And then me and Colin just looked at each other and we were like, okay, that works.
I said, yeah, I was just like Hitman in the Desert, and you were like, what if one of them was a clown? And I was like, there we go, that's the whole thing.
And
all right.
I think it's a lot of fun. With a couple more rewrites, this could turn out really, really good.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, whenever you guys are ready, go ahead and start.
Exterior, children's birthday party, day. Kids sit bored in a suburban backyard. One red-haired boy drools, holding an ice cream cone. Wacky the Clown, 50, stands holding a top hat, waving his hand above. He reaches inside the hat and pulls out the red-haired boy's ice cream cone. The boy looks confused, now holding a rabbit. Wacky awkwardly smiles. None of the children do. A few parents in the background clap enthusiastically. The boss, 58, smoking a cigar, wearing a wife-beater t-shirt with pasta stains on it, watches with eyes narrowed and a pained expression. He sits at the head of a fold-out table with his men surrounding him, one of whom is Pat, 23. Exterior children's birthday party, later. A young enforcer in a black suit hands Wacky a roll of 20s. Wacky smiles sheepishly. Thank you. He pockets the money.
Now get out of here.
Wacky nods and steps back. He raises his hand to notify the boss of his leave. The boss groans and waves him away. Wacky turns and exits out the backyard gate. The boss watches him leave. He turns to Pat. What the hell was that? Pat looks up from his ice cream.
What was what?
The clown.
Yeah, I know. Never know how he does the rabbit trick.
The boss raises his hand in exasperation. No, you fucking goon. He was terrible. Pat raises his brow.
You didn't like him?
No, not in the slightest.
Really?
You ask again, I'm gonna shoot you in the fucking face. Pat grows quiet. The boss watches his son play. What a disappointment. I told you this was important. For God's sakes, a 4-year-old's birthday party is important. We put a gun in your hand, a cigar in your mouth. He turns to Pat. Go off the guy for me, will you? Pat looks shocked.
Off him, boss?
Yes, Pat. Take care of him.
But he's got a lot of history with the family. He's got a load of credit to his name. A birthday clown we can trust has been a very valuable resource for the family.
The boss reaches forward to a vegetable platter. Pat? The boss picks up a carrot and places it in his mouth next to the cigar. Take him someplace nice. He bites down. Crunch. Match cut to interior clown car, day. The click of a gun's hammer. A handgun pokes directly in the camera's eye. Behind it, Pat's face glistens with sweat. Hot sun beaming through the dirty windows. Behind him, endless desert. Wacky stares at the gun, hands above his head. His voice shakes, on the verge of tears. Please.
Shut up. Get out of the car.
I know you don't want to do this. You're a good guy.
I said shut up.
Pat presses the gun against his face. Wacky winces. What about a trick? I think there might be some money behind that ear. Wacky reaches forward slowly with his hand. Pat hits him in the nose with the butt of his handgun. Wacky yells in pain, blood coming from his nose.
I'm not gonna tell you again. Step out of the car or I'll paint your steering wheel.
Patrick, please. Pat freezes. The gun moves backwards.
What did you just say?
Wacky awkwardly smiles. I'd never forget a boy's face. Pat moves forward against the window, gun still trained on it.
No. I was hoping you wouldn't remember me.
Of course I remember you, Patrick. You were one of the best boys I ever performed for.
Please don't say my name.
Patrick,
Don't say my fucking name!
The gun trembles in his hand.
I can't believe it. Out of all the lousy clowns I'd have to off, why'd it have to be you?
I'm not that bad, am I? Pat laughs.
Not to a 4-year-old boy, you weren't. That was set to be one of my worst birthdays, with Mom and Dad fighting all the time.
Pat straightens up, gun being placed in Wacky's face.
But this is my family now.
Wacky's smile disappears.
I gotta do this for the boss. Get out of the fucking car.
Wacky solemnly steps out of the car. Exterior desert, day. The sun beams down relentlessly. Pat steps out of the car, gun trained on Wacky.
Step away from the car.
Wacky walks backwards, hands in the air. Please, Patrick, you'll regret this.
If you have any last words, don't let him be pleading for your life.
Wacky smiles, tears in his eyes. Do you want to see a trick? Pat sadly shakes his head. His finger squeezes on the trigger.
No.
Bang! A flag hangs out of Pat's gun, with the above phrase on it. Pat looks down at his gun confused. A gunshot echoes through the desert. Pat's face contorts with pain. He holds his side, blood on his hands. Pat falls to his knees, looking up. Wacky stands over him, holding Pat's real gun, heat curling from the barrel. Wacky gazes sadly down at Pat. The Caprice family sends its regards. Pat falls to the ground, face pressed into the sand. He watches Wacky walk to the clown car, shoes squeaking with every step. Pat looks up at the sky. He reaches his hand to his ear, feeling behind it, and pulls out a quarter. He smiles, his eyes closing. Fade to black.
That was wonderful.
That was fantastic. Yeah,
I love that. This is a wonderful script.
Yeah, I think right now one of my favorite, I guess, tropes or settings is a mafia clown. Like I don't know, I love the world that you kind of really set up here. How there's this clown who's closely connected to the mafia, but has to get bumped off. And I don't know, I think it's a really great script, and I can definitely see it translating very well to the screen. So really great job.
It's the ending that gets it for me, because that's where it all comes together. Where it I mean, you've built up this extremely serious, not extremely serious, but like a serious moment here where he's pleading for his life. He doesn't want to do the murder, and we have some intense emotions there, and then you reverse it in this like still tense moment. A character's getting off, but it's also like ridiculous. It's really well done.
Joey came up with the idea to have the gun be to be the prop gun or whatever at the end, that at some point that Wacky had switched the guns on him, and so we had to figure out when we wanted to like set that up. So we thought that'd be good with the introducing Wacky with his little magic trick where he can switch two things out. And I think my absolute favorite part of writing this was to write bang, and then immediately under it have that instead be revealed as like that's just the words that are on the page and not like an actual sound effect.
And that's something that like only the person reading the script is going to like, unless it's done as an audio drama like we just did.
Yeah.
But it's something that only someone reading the script is going to go, oh, he just shot the. Oh wait, no, he didn't just shoot the clown.
Yeah.
Like, because on the screen it's not going to portray that way.
Right. It'll just be a flag coming out or a sound.
I found that very interesting. So as I understand that the process of writing script is usually like a writer writes a script and then that goes to a director who then like not rewrites but does a lot of edits to the script to adapt it to their own style, right?
Translates it, yeah.
Yeah. So is that initial writer isn't necessarily writing to the audience that's going to see it. They're mostly writing to the director to like tell them, hey, this is how you should portray the story, and this is a story you should pick up because it feels like this, because it's written like this. I find that really interesting because it's this dual purpose where all of the imagery and dialogue is being written toward an audience, but all of the like mood and tone and prose is actually being directed toward the person putting on the film.
Yeah, there's a big like thing with writing scripts, and I mean, a format is like something that it took me a while to get the hang of and to not feel as daunting. And there's like a lot of different like takes that people have on it and a bunch of different rules, but a lot of people don't like when you include specific things in scripts because, like you said, it's going to be taken into somebody else's hands. So even us, like writing in like a match cut or saying like or having like other kinds of specific instances in there, even like the bang of being on the flag of the gun, like a lot of those things aren't traditionally done in a script unless that person who's writing it is going to get to direct it. And so just to, like talking with Joey and also knowing that this was something that other people besides us were going to read, I thought it would be fun to include that because it's a fun little reveal while you're reading it. And then of course, if this is something that Joey and I were to make into the future, we have, basic total creative control over it, and we can include whatever we want in the script because it's essentially going to be like the shooting script for it. And no one else is going to have their hands on it.
Traditionally in the Writers' Workshop, which is Colin is in. Are you the head of the Writers' Workshop this upcoming semester?
I am. I'll be
Colin
the
is the head of the Writers' Workshop. Traditionally, we work with spec scripts, which is just like you leave out any semblance of like visual style. It's all just like no camera. You don't talk about music. You don't talk about. I remember we had a script one time that was just like a music cue plays in this and a music cue, and it's like you don't mention that. You're not supposed to, like, especially in the Writers' Workshop, because it will. If your script is picked for like an official or something, it will be handed to somebody else to direct. And so like the spec script is interesting, but I think for this, like, it worked really well to write in some of those match cuts and stuff like that. That's a lot of interesting information. I'm glad you guys are talking about this here. I think most of our audience probably has not heard as much information on writing scripts, so that's good to hear. We're probably also going to be talking about this with the other script because I think it's just something that is inherent to basically all scripts, but just how evocative the dialogue is. Obviously, it's even more brought to life because you guys put out voices and accents, so good job on that. But yeah, that's it. It always comes alive a lot more than in normal prose, I think.
I've watched a lot of gangster movies recently. I just watched like Donnie Brasco maybe like a few days ago, which is a lot of fun, and I'm obsessed with with organized crime or just crime in general. I also watched that new Netflix documentary about the mob, Fear City or something, I think it's called. But it's just basically about New York when the mob controlled like everything from like the construction industry to like restaurants. So, and you get to hear like audio recordings in that of actual of people of the time talking like that, and they sound like exactly like the caricatures in like a Goodfellas or a Casino. Like a Casino's another one too that I watched recently, but it's like the way they talk and describe things is like, it's not an exaggeration in the movie where they're, you know, talking about filling a dude's shoes with cement and like chucking him over a bridge. It's very funny. And it's fun.
I grew up.
It's fun to play around with that, with the words too, like saying someone's gonna paint your steering wheel or whatever.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah.
I grew up with like mob movies. You know, some of my dad's favorite movies are like The Godfather, and we're from New Jersey, so like obviously we're gonna hear a lot about it. But it's very possible that my grandfather was in the mob, or at least like was adjacent to them.
Oh, so you have mob ties.
From Italy. Yeah, he was from Italy, and he was president of the Meat Cutters Union in New Jersey.
Oh, so, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it seems fairly likely that there was some interaction.
So it's interesting stuff. Hopefully I can go on Ancestry.com, and they go, oh, he was in the mob. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm glad that Ancestry.com knows that.
Yeah, but no one else did. But yeah, no, a lot of the influences are very present within your story. Like, just by reading it, I can tell that you've seen Goodfellas. I can tell that you've seen Godfather, because you are very easily you're very easily going right off of the very typical mob tropes. But at the same time, it does feel that there is a different personality to it, to where there is this sort of absurdity that is present throughout the entire script. So yeah, I think I really liked that you were able to take those elements but also make them your own in some sort of way. And of course, the ending is by far one of the best twists that I've read in a while. So
thank you. Yeah, I love whenever like I write. I don't know how Joey feels about this, but I very much like wearing like my influences on my sleeve. I'd never want to try and disguise from the fact that I've been influenced so heavily by things. I don't want to say I'm to the level of someone like a Tarantino who just who very much likes to just kind of remake things or just throw stuff in. But yeah, absolutely. I very much like to draw from things that that inspire me and that I enjoy, and I definitely like showing that and not pretending like it would be any other way.
Oh yeah, I totally
nice.
And
nice.
The story was cracked by me and Colin, but the words on the script are all Colin. Colin wrote the script, and I just kind of helped crack the story.
All right, nice. So
is that an official term, by the way? Cracking a story? I haven't heard that before.
Oh yeah, I guess that's a phrase. I've definitely heard other people who actually work in the industry use that term.
Oh yeah, crack the story. Okay. I've heard
crack
that.
The story, yeah.
You can't make an omelet without cracking a few stories.
Exactly.
That's That's
the saying.
That's in the Bible. I don't remember what book, but yep, it is.
The story was definitely the easiest part of this. Like we got that figured out in like 30 minutes, and it just kept like it was basically just like a very quick back and forth, which was, did we already say I said I wanted someone getting whacked in the desert, and you said
he should be a clown.
They should be a clown. and then after that, so we had our beginning and end. Oh, well, I guess this is the interesting part, but our biggest, like, I guess the only, like, stumbling block, or the thing that we had to, like, put some thought to, was what was going to be in the middle, because we knew the beginning and we knew the end, like, immediately. We were like, okay, beginning is the clown. Like, it's so, like, the joke for us was just the mob boss being like, that performance was so bad, this guy needs to die. And then the ending was, of course, the clown turns out to be from a rival family that's been undercover for years or whatever, monitoring this crime family. And so then we were trying to figure out which was fill the middle. And so then we were like, okay, so what's this character's like hesitation? Why does he not want to kill the clown? And originally we had said that, the idea was always that the clown had performed at the kid's birthday party, but then because the first draft of it, and the first thing we were coming up with, Pat was older, and he had like a child who had died or something, and that clown had performed at his kid's birthday party before the kid died. But then we were like, no, it'd be funnier if the clown performed at his birthday party. And then I just kind of sprinkled in that little bit about the parents or whatever. But that was like the thing, is trying to figure out Pat's hesitation.
Yeah, I feel like reading the script, it was like, okay, so this is like pretty much word for word, or beat for beat, just like our thing. It's just like in Colin's words. That's what the story was. But it was pretty much the exact same thing we came up with, which was just, the beat for beat the story. But initially, the whole thing was in the desert. Like, I think Colin, you said you wanted to start with like him already them already in the desert, and that's the whole thing, is them just talking in the desert. And I think which turned out to be half the script, but we said the birthday party should be like a prologue and should explain like what's going on. But I think it turned out really well, just the whole how everything kind of wrapped up and all the setups and payoffs and everything. I really enjoyed it. Even there's like that mini setup and payoff with the quarter bit, which
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
I love the ending right there.
I live by
holding a quarter.
I live by Chekhov's gun. I mean, I also like not doing that, because that's also very silly. But I guess that's like I live and die by setting things up in the beginning and having it pay off, because there's no bigger reward to the audience than rewarding them for like paying attention to a detail. And that's what makes like a plot twist, in my opinion, so good, is that you have like enough there to where when the audience, you don't want to, like, the biggest issue plot twists run into is that the audience is confused or they're almost like angry by it, because they're like, well, the movie didn't give us any indication that would even happen. So then it's not really a plot twist. It's just you trying to screw with them. But yeah, that's having the twist of the gun at the end or whatever is imperative to it. It all hinges on that setup at the beginning, that even because it works to set up Wacky being a pathetic clown character. It works into the setting of opening on the birthday party, and then it also works to set up the little switcheroo at the end. So if you can find a way to like to get multiple things to kind of serve one purpose, it just feeds into your script overall, I think, a little bit better. That's just my opinion. Humble opinion.
So that's all the surface level discussion. What is the deep underlying meaning of your piece this week?
I think it's, if you try to kill your past will kill you.
Oh shit.
Damn.
Okay.
I was seeing it
reaching deep.
I was seeing it more as like the Irishman almost, like, situation, like if you put all your eggs in one basket, that basket might shoot you in the face or something. I don't know. I don't really. I always try and say that I like have some meaning when I begin writing, but I almost always find meaning like after I've written it or in the rewrite.
Oh yeah.
You find it through writing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You aim for something, and inevitably, just because you're thinking of other things, or just the story fits into a different puzzle piece, you end up having a slightly different thing than your initial initial theme. So the real last questions I do want to ask is, one, what do you think you would improve on a second draft? And then two, what do you think you guys learned from writing this?
I think I know Colin wants the just the descriptions to be touched up a bit. I really do like it how it is, but there's definitely like it can just be polished. Maybe extend it maybe by like a page, add a little bit more dialogue between Wacky and Pat.
Yeah.
And set up for the sequel, obviously. Wacky 2, where he goes and John Wick style kills the mafia.
Okay.
This is brilliant. Or Pat comes back from the dead as a clown.
Ooh.
Zombie Pat.
Zombie clown situation.
Wacky 2, here and Pat again.
Oh man, I think like Joey said, like I use like important in like that part where the boss is talking about the birthday party. I use the word important twice, which I should not have done. I should have figured out a better word to throw in there.
You're okay, Colin.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean, I think it's pretty okay, especially because like it just sounds like he's emphasizing it
That's
too.
true,
So
that's
I didn't
true.
even notice it.
I get, and then another thing too. Yeah, like again, like Joey said, I think I'd try and put another page in there to extend that confrontation between Pat and Wacky. But I also I guess this ties into what I was saying about the setup or payoff. Is that the whole, like, I think the original reason why I wanted it to begin in the desert is to make that the ending payoff of the switch even better, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But it ended up working in this well too for a different reason, which is that when you open a scene with like one character holding a gun in his hand and the other and pointed at another character's head, in the audience's brain, like if you open with that image, they're immediately like, okay, at some point this gun has to go off. At some point someone is going to get shot. And so that's all part of building. I can't remember I can never remember the difference between tension and suspense, but one of them is the lack of knowledge and the other one is with knowledge. And I wish I could remember which one that was, but we know that at some point the gun has to go off. And so that's the best part of the switch to me, is that the gun finally does go off. And it's something...
But not in the way you expected.
Exactly, yeah, not in the way we expected. Yeah. We've been telling the audience the whole time that this gun is going to go off, and so you're expecting it. And then when it does, it's something else. And I wanted to open with that to even like more emphasize that. But I also love the match cut to the desert with the gun in his face, so it still works.
I don't want to write on camera or on podcast, and if you want to cut this out, you totally can. But what if you opened with him playing with the gun at the birthday party, and then you have that like, oh my god, he's got a gun at a birthday party, and it goes off and it's the bang gun, and then you have that mini like heart attack, like you think he's gonna kill a kid or something, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's just a bang gun, thank god. And then that comes back later because you think it's one of those fake twists where it's like, oh god, it's a gun, and then it's actually a joke. And then it comes back later like, oh god, no, that was like an important thing, like he had that fake gun.
Sure, I guess I liked not even putting the fake gun, the gun that has the bang in it, because I feel like if you do that,
it's a bit too obvious.
The audience expects you to use it.
I think if it was like a 30-minute thing, then it would be pretty good, because then you have time to kind of forget about it.
Right.
But yeah, within a 6-minute thing, it's like you just saw it. Yeah. So what do you guys think you learned writing this?
I learned that me and Colin as a duo, we've never actually sat and written something before. We could totally write a ton of stuff, and I didn't realize that him and I had like such a good writing chemistry together, because we come up with ideas all the time, but like we never actually sit down to write. So I guess that's what I learned.
Yeah, I feel very similar, Joey. I feel the same. I guess writing wise or script wise, I guess it was really just like trying to make a conscious effort to make sure, even though everyone's like kind of a stereotype, to also kind of give them like a little bit of depth. I'd probably say that like the person with the least amount of depth would be Wacky, just because he just doesn't want to die, which is, that's good motivation and all. But Pat's got the whole thing of having to kill someone who's performed at your birthday party. The boss just wants his kid to have a decent birthday party, and he feels wronged. So even though the situation's ridiculous, I guess grounding it in a little bit of reality, and then also grounding it, of course, in the tropes that we know and love of the gangster genre and everything. I think just making sure that your stuff is your characters are believable enough that when it hard cuts to someone in the desert in a clown car, your audience isn't being like, well, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Well, all right, I guess it's time to move on to our story, Matthias.
Yeah. I don't know how to transition to this, but so we also collaborated on this, but Jarvis basically cracked the story and then wrote the script, and I just helped polish up a little bit.
Well, no. It was so basically how it kind of worked out, right? Is that I had a idea but I didn't know how to put it into words. So I just ended up writing a rough draft and sending that to you. And then we basically talked about it briefly. I was reassured that what I was writing wasn't utter garbage. So then from there, basically, it kind of did work out to where I was writing, but I had Matthias in my ear the whole time, basically guiding where the pen went.
Okay. Do you mean that? I'm not entirely sure whether you mean that literally or metaphorically. Was it like if you were just like simulating me in your ear, like giving you writing advice? Yeah,
pretty much. I basically went into my mental palace and I created a mental version of
a homunculus.
You. And it really helped me kind of crack the story on this script.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm interested in all the minute influences that this mental Matthias had on you. But which words did you end up using? I wasn't paying. I think I deleted one in the edits. I didn't even realize until after.
Maybe. So yeah, we basically ended up using credit, history, and smell.
I think I deleted credit. I think that was the one that I accidentally deleted.
Okay, well, credit was in there.
It was in there.
Yeah, just throughout edits that were definitely much needed for the story. That just got deleted, but the trade-off is that the story makes a lot more sense. So
I think that's a win in the end.
Yeah, I think that's an epic win.
So you write scripts a lot more than I do. We use the script formatting site Celtex. So if you haven't written a script before, it's a pretty good place to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a solid website. Personally, I think the hardest part about using Celtex is when you're using it with someone else. Because I can count like at least 20 times when both me and Matthias were working on it, and everything that I wrote was deleted. So I pretty much kept writing the same four lines like 5 different times.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I heard that was really annoying. I didn't really experience that, so I think the program just thought that my words were better.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into it. What's the name of this? I don't.
What's it named? Roomy.
Okay. Interior, apartment, midday. The apartment was typically kept cold and clean on most days. Only had enough room to walk in. Everything else was either furniture or decoration. The overall vibe was cozy. Big double doors open to the street. A canvas white and expensive Alexa on the counter. Technicolor lights lining the ceiling. A TV stand in the living room that towered over a short table, which comfortably sat crooked to the wall. In fact, the only thing odd about the place was the ill-covered claw marks in the corners of the room, cat-like but bigger than you'd expect. There was idle conversation in the air, primarily between Alex and Hannah, who sat adjacent to each other. They were both in twice-worn pajamas, no makeup, but great hair. They're picturesque friends, had a yin-yang dynamic apparent in Hannah's perpetually bubbly mood. Next to them was Dan, a blank slate of a human, seldom spoke, and burned up data on his phone. Off in the kitchen, causing a ruckus, the last roommate, Marcus, rifled through the cabinets and drawers as if his keys, wallet, and phone were all hidden in the same place. He's dressed nice, street casual, but it was all ill-fitted, wrinkled in the wrong places, and had a visible old smell. So subtle, and barely audible, there's a ring about the room. So tiny and hard to hear, you'd think a one-legged grasshopper was making the noise. Alex couldn't hear it, nor could Hannah, or Dan. But the ringing was all Marcus could hear.
You think our place is haunted?
Yeah? Scratched up walls and we don't have a cat? TV winds up in the kitchen and we don't have gremlins? Marcus follows the rise and fall of the ringing around the kitchen. It takes him to the sink, then his morning coffee, counter, fridge. He just checked the cabinets and moved on to the empty bottles atop the fridge, not being too careful with them and clustering most of them in the sinks.
Right. And it stopped when they installed security.
They knew we were onto them. There was nothing atop the fridge but thick dirt, So Marcus leaves the bottles where they lay to tear apart the laundry room.
Ah, so they went into hiding. Or we got robbed.
Just for the summer, let's relax. Forget about them. Come fall, winter, October, we'll have to remodel because of the hell they'll raise.
The hell they'll raise.
In the solitude of the hall laundry room, Marcus covers his ears, then turns back towards the sink.
Y'all hear that, right?
Dan is quick to answer.
Hear what, Marcus?
Marcus crosses to the kitchen sink again and starts pulling out the alcohol bottles he put there. With no care for the noise, he tosses them around the counters, washing the kitchen in whiskey and cheap wine.
That ringing hum, I don't know. Maybe a cicada got in, or... You good, man?
Marcus notices his dirty hands stained red from wine among the mess he's made.
Yeah, I'm fine.
He runs to the patio, tapping out a smoke along the way. Interior, apartment, midnight. Well past their bedtimes, the four roommates have sunken deep into the couch. Their eyes, as heavy as they are glued to a nondescript animation that pops, slashes, and explodes across the screen. Marcus slurps down some noodles obnoxiously, giving no time for it to cool down. Halfway through it, he plops it down on the table for later. Together, they're silently occupied, till Hannah dozes off, snores herself awake, and collects her things from around the apartment. Good night, y'all. Exit. Interior apartment, midnight, in a few minutes. The bedtime bug bit Dan next, where the other two laughed along with the show. Dan fell deadly silent. Eventually, Alex's howling cackle woke him to his feet and into his room. He exits. Interior apartment, midnight in a few more minutes. Out of the blue, Alex gets up to cook a late-night munch. She wound up with a decent PB&J, half-toasted, with strawberries. To her, however, it was a masterpiece, and she held her little plate like a baby before walking off.
Night, Mark.
She exits. Interior apartment, midnight and an hour. For a while now, Marcus's snores filled their small living room area, and the TV ran out of content and switched to a mountainside screensaver. There was silence among the apartment. Then the ringing began. His hands sleepwalked to his ears, rubbed them closed until his eyes opened. The dark he was in raised his alertness. The mysterious shriek was loud now, enough to rattle still water in their Brita filter, enough to take him from his seat to grab the ramen, then to lock both doors and disappear into his room, hurried. Inside the room, there was a shuffle, a creak, and a beep from a PS4. Then the lights went off, and no more than an hour later, his snores overpowered his console's fan. Seconds after Marcus shuts in for the night, Alex's door, then Dan's door, and Hannah's door, glided open. Alex was the first out, held a hand on the wall, and crept down the hall. Her eyes stayed on the ground, guiding her feet in the sporadic pattern that kept her quiet. Interior, apartment, kitchen, midnight in an hour. Alex turned on the oven light, and from around the corner, Dan and Hannah crept in. Hannah followed a path right up to Alex. Dan, on the other hand, stepped right past them to the fridge and cabinets. Get over here.
I'm hungry, and I live here. Mission or not, I'm gonna eat.
Their demeanor has changed sharply. More professional, logical, maybe even scientific. Alex stood up, tall and straight-backed, like a teacher eager to administer a midterm. Huddled next to her, the teacher's pet, Hannah, puffed her chest out toward Alex in attention.
How'd the sleeping pill go over, Hannah?
Well enough. Put it in his ramen and he ate it pretty quick. Dan continued to go through the cabinets. He grabs bread, mayo, and cheese. Fed up Alex gets started.
Well, good. I want to say, Hannah, Seasonal Ghost Conversation was a great cover-up. It'll feed into his superstition, explain the weird month, and maybe even drive a result. You don't think that's too much information? If he knows too much, then he'll be like us, yeah? Immune. Study over if you do that.
Past reports of the incident all included the subjects theorizing while the patterns escalated. My theory is that the theorizing and panicking on the part of the subject is part of the pattern. The information is off anyway. It's not a ghost. All signs point to it being an emotional dimensional impression, which you'd know if you'd actually read the briefing.
I skimmed it. We can all stand to do a little better Dan, read the goddamn report. Hannah, you were monitoring him a little hard today. He's not going to find it in the bathroom. You don't have to check on it.
Hannah clicks her heels and gives a silent salute. Sir. Alex about-faced to Dan, who was working on a pickle jar.
Dan, I'm going to be brutally honest. I'm going to need 40% more from you. I'm doing all I can. But you were put on this mission to be his best friend and confidant. Someone he can tell about what he sees and what he hears. We need that data. You didn't talk to him once today.
Dan finessed the bread, the cheese, and mayo into a triple-decker sandwich separated by pickles and pastrami, seasoned slightly and buttered. A few more seconds and he would be so close to topping it off with a dill relish.
Dude's weird. Doesn't matter, don't care. Hang out with him, or you're going to flunk out of college and have to move back home, Agent Dan.
Unenthusiastic, Dan dropped the relish to click his boots and salute. Alex smiled and stepped back to the oven, opened to the others, and kicked a foot up.
So we know he's been hearing for a while. About a month. And has the source honed down to the kitchen laundry area, but keeps hovering over the patio.
He smokes, sir.
Yes, but he switched to vape a month ago. Historically speaking, he does that in his room. Could it be triangulation, you think? Maybe it is in the living room. Can't be. Checked the whole front first thing. No readings. Still think it's somewhere in the boiler.
Dan produced 2 cups of coffee, piping hot, and handed them to Hannah and Alex. I told you already. 1, we didn't know what we were looking for when we checked. 2, it can hide in any mundane household item, including new ones. And 3, only someone who doesn't know that can find it for us. We know about it, we can't find it.
Yeah, but I don't think Big Ears will just figure it out. And that's what we're here to find out. I'm gonna need 50% from you, Dan.
She sips the coffee.
Thanks.
Hannah slightly raises her hand. Question, sir.
Non-formal, just speak.
According to the pattern reporting on previous incidents, we're set for a Category C loud event in the next couple days. So, I was thinking, next time he asks, do y'all hear something? What if we played along and listened in? Maybe we just need to humor him, and he'll find something. I still wish we had 2 subjects. Stupid funding cuts.
Ah, the quiet game.
No, more like an inside day. You go to work tomorrow, and I'm scheduled to sleep in, so maybe you could keep it quiet tomorrow, sir, and let him look around?
Can't. I have to beat his ass in Pokemon Stadium and convince him to order pizza. What about Monday?
The Alexa on the counter cut the question short with an alarm set to max.
Alexa!
She snapped.
Volume 1, and stop.
It's early. The alarm disappeared, but didn't pick up back where they left off. Still as stone, there wasn't a grin or smile in the house. They looked to Alex, then to the patio door, tickled by the wind. In a half sprint, they dismissed from the kitchen to their assigned rooms, each triple locking their doors and bracing against it. It started with a rattle on the stove. Whatever it was went unseen. The sound of flies zapping crawled along the floor. Then wind punched the glass and sent the bitter smell of oil into the apartment. Metal items clung to the walls and dragged deep into the paint. When a groove was caught, they bent flat to the wall, then bent out to the room in a spike. Then ramparts of white noise roared into stampedes up and down the halls and walls. They knocked into tables, threw around the TV, blasted wind through the roommates' doors. The sounds of chaos would grow into a 12-piece orchestra of unintelligible bleats, hoarse neighs, lions pouncing, ravens cackling to a baby's cry, and building to a fever pitch. Then it stopped, the air still. They waited a while before Alex opened her door, looked both ways, and stepped back in to grab a new TV.
We're good.
Dan's door opened to him in a SWAT vest, holding a can of eggshell paint and a big brush. Then Hannah's door opened to her carrying a new toaster and a 36-count silverware set.
This silent death really knows how to fuck a place up.
Interior, apartment, 3 a.m. Dan places the last lamp on the side table. Behind, in the kitchen, Alex and Hannah look over photos of how their apartment used to look, their clothes splattered with paint. From the picture to now, they're completely identical, except for the table.
Drugs or not, still can't believe he can sleep through all that. Ugh, the tables are different.
Only by a little. The table they had was completely different. Not only was it 4 inches taller, but the matte black metal legs are now wooden ones spray-painted to look the same.
He's perceptive. He'll talk about this all day. Thank God I'm working.
Sir, I assure you it's fine. I'll file the report and request an exact replica tomorrow. Alex taps the photo in her hand. Pat, pat, pat.
That should be fine. I'll just keep it dim tomorrow. Today, actually. Good night.
Before anyone could speak, Dan was off for the night. Interior, Marcus's room, 3 a.m. A tornado tore through his room, but he felt at home here. Clothes riddled the floor, and old noodle cups populate his desk, including the half-eaten one from today. By 3, he'd usually be in bed or looking through the mini-fridge, but not tonight. Tonight, he heard the silent death. Across from his room door, he made a shelter in the corner of the room. 7 blankets and an assortment of pillows surround him in a bubble of comfort, a safe space. His ears were bleeding, his body trembling, and gasping for dry air. His breath steadied in a silent sob, tears the slightest shade of pink.
That was good. I tried to count the words. I think I got 3. Did you put 3 of the words?
There was supposed to be anyway. I think I deleted credit. I don't know if it's still there, but maybe all the words ended up in there anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
So tell us a little bit how you guys came up with the story for that.
Yeah, we'll have to ask Jarvis. He was the main one writing this week.
Well, like? I don't know. The process really came from a personal crisis because right now we are expecting a 4th roommate in like 2 to maybe 5 days, and we have no clue who this guy is. So I guess I just kind of fed off of that, not fear, but that nervousness. In a sense, and just, I don't know, I just kind of threw it out on the page. When it comes to the trajectory of the story, especially heading towards the end, that was heavily inspired by a lot of Matthias's suggestions to not make them as military as I did at first, and to make them a lot more amateur. And bordering on the line of them being scientists and researchers.
Yeah, the original draft. I think you still had the really chilled atmosphere in their dialogues, and I really wanted to keep that. Because like I said before, dialogue and scripts is always the best part, I think. And so I was like, okay, how do we work around that and make sure that that's a core feature that stays? And so I was like, they got to be like basically grad students to talk this way, even if they're professionals or whatnot. But writing this was really an interesting twist on the do the right thing formula. It's definitely different from how we usually do it.
Yeah, because I mean, we don't normally we don't normally collab whatsoever when it comes to writing each week. I think our collaboration really comes from making the actual podcast. But no, it was really interesting working with Matthias in a different fashion. Very refreshing beyond anything else, because I know when I'm writing, I tend to kind of get stuck in either a voice or a character or a persona. So definitely having Matthias there helped me focus a lot more on the purpose, on the trajectory of the story. So yeah, it was really fun all around.
Yeah, I definitely think last time I was on your podcast, that was the first time I'd written a short story in God knows how long. Like, I'm used to writing scripts and writing in that format.
Oh,
and even
nice.
then, I turned my short story into a script anyway. So I did afterwards. Yeah, but yeah, it's really strange to kind of get out of that, because yeah, every week like you're doing these writing prompts and you're writing these stories, but there are still like muscles.
Yeah, we need to do some weeks where we just do like poetry and stuff. I think that's something we've been half meaning to do for a while.
Yeah.
But then the main problem there is like, how do you... Normally, stories take like 10 minutes or so to read, right? So writing a 10-minute poem is like a little more daunting than just writing a poem.
That's a haiku for sure.
A short epic.
That's a sonnet, man. That's a...
Yeah, so Jarvis, I wanted to ask, did writing a script for Do the Right Thing differ from how you usually write scripts? I mean, I was just editing, so like the actual process part, you're the one to ask.
Okay. I guess so. And yeah, I feel that writing this one was a lot different. Mostly because when I sat down to write this, I had a lot of different goals, right? I wanted it to not only be sort of grounded while also trying to hit the typical do the right thing time frame. But I also wanted to kind of create something that felt like a middle ground between you and me, kind of. And I know when it comes to writing any other script, I'm kind of the complete opposite. I just sit down and I barrel through the story as much as possible, just trying to get from the beginning, middle to the end. And then in a second go, I'll go back and I'll add a lot more stuff. But for this one, it was more so of me taking my time as I was working through it to kind of put all of the pieces there, so that when you did come in, there was a lot more for you to really work with.
Yeah, and I ended up adding a lot more, mostly information on stuff to clarify things. Like what is the deep mystery here, Jarvis?
The deep mystery? Like, what is it?
What is the silent death?
Yo, I don't even know, to be honest. I had a couple of different...
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. I mean, I had a couple of different ideas. I was thinking, oh, what if it's like some sort of alien artifact? And it's like a rock, but it's a psychic supernatural rock. But that's dumb. And then at first I was like, well, maybe it's a ghost. But then I kind of realized, well, ghosts don't seem to work like that, and I don't want to write about ghosts. So I don't know. I see it as this sort of supernatural object that's just stashed somewhere in this apartment.
I found it very the original idea very Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah,
because of the research stuff. You guys have seen it, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, with the people observing them and everything, and the very like the way they're monitoring them and everything.
Well, it's just like in the way that like it kind of plays on genre, like how Cabin in the Woods, you think it's gonna be just this normal like.
I don't know why people don't like that movie.
Monster movie.
Yeah, it's great. I don't know. I
think
I don't understand.
Well,
I love Cabin in the Woods. I think it's great.
Everyone I talk to is very mixed. It's like the 50-50 on whether they love it or hate it.
Well, then also I think that's really chalking up to what they expect out of the film. Because I know the first time that I watched it, I mean, I personally loved it, but I loved it because it didn't go where I thought it would. It was trying something completely different. But I know that there are a lot of people out there that love horror, and they love it one specific way. So I can kind of get why when people talk about that movie, it's kind of a mixed bag.
How do you come up with the voices for the characters? And this is kind of a question for all of y'all. More
for the motivation.
Yeah, the voices basically. Like, how do you come up with like who the characters are basically? Because I feel like how they sound and how they're written is kind of like the most important part to their character, as like that's the part on the page.
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to coming up with my characters, whatever group or dynamic that I'm trying to come up with, I like to make it kind of balanced, you know? If there's one person that's on this side, I would like there to be someone else who might not be on the opposite side, but somewhere within the middle, just to have a varying mix of possible dialogue options of what they could talk about. And also, I think the biggest thing when it comes to writing this script voice wise, the content of the plot that we were trying to put down really influenced exactly how these characters would talk. Because when I first sat down to write it, I kind of wanted to make it very serious. But then through writing it and through kind of seeing how absurd this idea really is, it then kind of started to delve into a comedy, which pretty much influenced how they spoke.
I feel like it might be more of a Colin thing to answer, because he was the one who wrote the script. But for me, at least, especially in something like this, it's kind of, you're playing on, like, yet again, you're playing on genre. And it's like, okay, so mob bosses just sound like this. Or, like, you know, the plucky young soldier who, like, needs to make his way in the family, he sounds like this. And so I think, especially Colin being our resident mob aficionado, those voices are kind of predetermined, and you're just playing
definitely.
how they react in this scenario.
It's comical for a mob boss to want, you know, a clown to be killed because he did poorly at his son's birthday party. But in some level of, like, extremeness there's some way, you know, and it's, you know, it's not even put on the page, and, you know, you'd have to jump to a lot of conclusions to get to this. But at some, like, core of the character, this is a guy who loves his family so much that he can only express their disappointment that they've had a poor day through, like, horrible violence. And so there's something ridiculous there, but, like, it's rooted in, like, this weird, like, just like the hyper masculinity of the mob world. And, like, even though it's like it makes you laugh, at the same time you're like, wow, this guy was willing to, you know, commit murder just because his son had a bad time, which, you know, is which is always, you know, funny to play with. And yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you guys are saying. And what Joey says is that a lot of, like, especially writing for more genre specific things, like, a lot of it is, like, wanting to bring something new to the table and figure out a way to kind of subvert the tropes that you've seen before. You know, again, like, talking about Cabin in the Woods and what it did for the horror genre and everything else. And I think that's a big part of when you write characters, is you all want them to have their unique voice. And that's, you know, that's always the biggest part for me, is that if I can figure out what all the characters want and you know, what they want and what's stopping them, it becomes very easy to write in their voice, because as long as you're looking at it from their perspective, you kind of know what they want to say. Maybe you won't always get exactly the way to articulate it, but you'll know what they want to say, and then from there you can, you know, fine tune it until it sounds like it sounds pleasing to the ears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I have a question for Matthias, actually. What was the process like, kind of hopping into this idea and going about editing it? Like, what were certain things that you kind of stuck to? What did you find totally didn't work?
So I went into it, and the first thing I really liked is just, like, how you wrote it. Like, I really liked your I mean, I don't know whether to call it prose or not, but your description and stuff, and your dialogue. So as I went through it, basically I was like, okay, what are the things I really want to keep? Like, what are the best parts of this? And so it's like, okay, the dialogue and so the descriptions, but mostly the dialogue. And so I was trying to figure out that the problem that I worked on was basically how to keep those best pieces while you know, changing the story to make it more streamlined or whatever, and just to build the story around that key strength, essentially.
I see, yeah. And I mean, you definitely elevated this story beyond what I possibly could have done by myself.
I mean, I think that's a little bit higher than is the reality, but sure, yeah.
I think throughout the entire process, that was definitely something that was needed, was you being able to figure out a way to streamline it and a way to kind of push it forward. With little things. Like, I know we talk so much about oh, why doesn't he wake up every time this happens? And then that's when we started thinking about a sleeping pill that they give to him, and then that idea of a sleeping pill branched off to this being more so of a scientific study versus a military study. So yeah, I don't know. It was great collab.
Yeah, we need to try more scripts for the future. Okay, I think that's all we need to say about our story. So we're going to go into the listener submitted story section, but Joey and Colin are going to take a step back just for a second, but they'll come back for the outro.
So, next up is our listener submitted story section. Thank you so much to everyone who did submit a story. Without y'all, of course, this podcast will be a little bit shorter. But before we go on, we're going to talk about all these stories intensely, which means we're going to spoil them. So, if you haven't read it, you should pause this podcast right now and go read them and come right on back so we can talk about them.
There's some really good stories this week, so I mean that's true every single week, but like, go read them. All right, who are we talking about this week, Jarvis?
So the stories we are going to be talking about this week are by Wildbow, Paradox, Ghost Pac-Man 4, Sarah Penguin, and Nipotin.
That's right. All right, let's get into it. Who's first?
Cool. The first up is Sarah Penguin with the Spy Master and the Princess Part 13, Shadows.
So this is the 13th chapter in this series
I
that
know.
Sarah Penguin is
How
doing.
long has this been going?
That's 13 weeks. That's really impressive. That's
Wow.
Yeah, that's more than 3 months.
4, 8, 12. Yeah, that's a week over three months. I mean, personally, I've never done anything over 3 months. So.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the series where Spy Master saved a princess, and they've got an ongoing romance in the midst of a civil war. So in this one, this is cut into two scenes. Our first one is essentially Duke Vargulf, the leader of the loyalist forces, basically planning out the next battle and planning where everyone's going to go. We can kind of sense there's some foreshadowing here, as in this one, the Spy Master is going to be placed on the opposite flank, so she'll be away from the princess, and we're pretty sure that something is going to happen there when the battle eventually goes on. And then we have the other half of the scene, which takes place inside the princess's tent, where the Spy Master is there too. The princess is reading a book, while Faye, the Spy Master, is reading spy reports and kind of giving us an update on how the enemy is doing. When suddenly a masked man appears at the door holding a sword and a blood-stained dagger. And Faye has to drop everything and starts fighting him, and it's pretty intense because he's armed with two weapons and she only has a knife, essentially. And even though she's really trained, just being surprised like that and having being so outmatched in weapons is really puts her at a disadvantage. But luckily, basically at the last second after she gets stabbed right in her shoulder, the princess has picked up a sword and cuts the assassin down. And that's the first time that she's ever killed someone, which is pretty intense.
Yeah, exactly. So I really love this entry. We got a good look of what this society looks like post-war, kind of on the political side and the personal side. And I do like how a lot more characterization is being done between Faye and the princess. And also when Faye did get stabbed, I was actually pretty scared for her. Like, I wasn't sure if this might be the end. So I don't know. I think that really drew me in, and I think every entry just continues to get better. So yeah, really great entry.
Yeah, the description of the knife sinking through her shoulder is pretty. It's got some scraping bone in there, which is always fun. Love that. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
All right, so the next one is by Nipotin with What a Little Bit of Rain Can Do.
So this is one of the So Nipitan chose here to write a basically very, very
Stage
short
play.
one-act play.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably
Which I love.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it.
which you probably could be performed in a couple of minutes. And in fact, I mean, it would be pretty easy to perform. You only need like 2.5 actors. So in this one, we have Jim and Julie, who are a couple. They're standing at the. It's raining outside, and they've taken refuge at Mario's, this restaurant. So they're standing right at the entrance. We assume kind of like the windows are open and stuff. And so we start off with this very tense conversation between the two. Julie. Clearly pretty upset. Jim kind of pretending that there's nothing to be upset about. Jim's just saying it's just a little bit of rain. Julie's saying that it's pouring out. And so we're kind of like, oh, married couple spat. Oh, no. And we at first we think that Julie's kind of being like aggressive here and like seeming to kind of blame Jim on, all the problems that's happened today. Like he can't control the weather. So like, it's not really fair for her to be angry. But as we go through, we kind of start to understand that Julie just puts in a lot more effort in this relationship, and Jim is just always taken up with work. And the argument continually escalates. This waiter shows up periodically, shows up 3 times. Essentially, the first time just saying, "Are you guys going to want to eat?" The second time saying, "Hey, you're making people uncomfortable. Please calm down." And the third time, at the conclusion of the argument, after Julie stormed off, essentially saying that she's going to leave, not come back, comes to tell Jim that he's got to leave too. And here we kind of get the final like switch where Jim was saying basically that he has to work. It's not his fault that he has to work so much, but he's actually supremely rich when he turns around and says, "I'll just give me the most expensive stuff." I'm like, basically, I'll make it worth your while to not kick me off. I'm gonna eat at the restaurant, even if she wanted to run off because her picnic wasn't perfect or whatever. Yeah, and I really like the sort of turnaround that we get over the course of this.
Yeah, definitely. And I really love how the dialogue is written in such a way that when you read it, you can tell that they're both they're both speaking over the other. And it really brings across the nature of this argument. So yeah, I really like both of these characters because it seems like they're both trying their best to get at the core issue while also stepping around it. So I think overall this is a really well constructed scene that I can perfectly see working very well on stage. So yeah, really great job.
Yeah, I love the echoing of Only a Little Bit of Rain, the title here, which is basically like, I'm trying not to make a big deal out of it, even though it, maybe is a little bit more. And yeah, I really like how it's kind of clear that there's a lot more to this situation than just this one scene.
A lot of context.
The one little critique I think is that the interruptions back and forth are perhaps like a little bit too much, where a lot of the dialogue is very, very short because it's just getting cut off. So maybe just cutting back on a little bit of it, I think might make it read a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you very much for your submission. And next up is Paradox with Transaction 10.
So this is the 10th entry in Paradox's series, which has the Flock and our main character. I think, wait, is she the Robin now? I forgot.
I'm pretty sure her name changed to Robin.
Right,
in
from
the last one.
Sparrow, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, not in the very last one, but for a little while. So this is where they're kind of like a superpowered cybernetic sort of assassins with a bird theme. Yeah. So in this one, we have our character at this party. We get a lot of clues about what kind of the kind of people that are here. This is a fancy museum, but instead of people respectfully looking at the art and things like that, it's actually basically a party for high-class criminals. And we kind of understand that our main character here has come to kill the main person, the person putting on the party, Mr. Grant. And so this huge guy, we kind of understand he's probably some sort of bodyguard or something, approaches her saying that Mr. Grant wants to see her. She follows him out. basically preparing for a fight. She says, "We don't have to do this," and he says, "We do." And they start to fight, but basically her attacks don't work, and he knocks her unconscious. She wakes up tied to a chair, and one of her partners is there as well. And we're like, oh shit, this has gone pretty bad pretty fast. Someone opens the door. Connor Grant, the son of the father, and he's coming with a knife. We're like, oh crap, is this it for our main character? Probably not, but like, we're worried about her. We don't want her to get stabbed or anything. And no, but he comes in and he cuts her loose. He asks, "You're here for my old man, right? Gonna take him out?" I wanted info first, but yeah, that was the gist. And the son of the criminal mastermind says, "Good, I'm in," which is a fun twist here and an escalation in the plot.
Yeah, definitely. I thought this was a really cool entry. I love the description of this party. Give us the overall air of this party, and then going forward, what I really liked was that the main character went into this with so much confidence, only for it to, as you said, go pretty bad. And I think the twist at the end it was pretty interesting, and I'm very eager to see kind of what happens next between our main character and Grant Jr.
Grant Jr. Yeah, my one little critique is basically that fight with that bodyguard happens a little. She loses a little quick, and
yeah,
it seemed like I wasn't sure like why she let herself get into a fight that she was going to so easily lose.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
She seemed more confident, and there wasn't like a surprise in it. Well, I mean, I guess there was a little bit because the bouncer didn't fall to her taser, but even so. Yeah, so just maybe like adding in a little bit of a twist in there, like her over reliance on this taser, maybe set that up as maybe a flaw in her plans, or otherwise give us a reason for why she loses to this guy.
Yeah, exactly. But either way, really good entry. And next up is Ghost Pac-Man 4 with A Long Day.
So we start off this with our main characters having just exited a dungeon of some sort or some other some ruins, taking out a bunch of treasure. As we understand it, basically they are adventurers, but like a adventuring party more in the like business sense, not necessarily just like going around for fun. We have Chester, who is he owns the wagon and basically is the capitalist here and funding the venture. And we have two warriors and then our main character, all kind of working together. And so we have some fun banter. We set up our characters. We start kind of liking some before our main character receives a screaming message from a glowing gem on their wrist, which is kind of like a transmitter for the entire kingdom. So we kind of understand that this is sort of like an Amber Alert system.
Yeah.
Where the mages can push out the message, and the more important the message, the further it goes. And they're out kind of in the boonies, so they're like, oh, this is a very important message. And the message is that a horde from beyond the northern perimeter has made their way past the guards, and that they're basically invading the country. So we're like, oh shit, what the fuck is a horde? And this is really bad that it's has to send a message to basically the entire kingdom. It's not like a localized thing. And so our characters with their loot, they're like, okay, well, let's get going. Let's start rushing back to where they need to go. But along the way, they see a giant monster, a Fenrir, a giant wolf that usually hunts in packs, but doesn't. But this one is not. This one is alone and starving, malnourished, diseased. It's pretty clear that like wherever it came from was so much worse than where it is now. But it's still like a giant, terrifying monster. One of our main characters, not the main character, but one of our main characters, one that we kind of got to like it. She kind of has like a repartee with our main character. Charges in to fight the Fenrir, while the rest can kind of get going. And we have some stuff set up. She has got this magical sword. She's a great fighter. She goes in. She uses up her abilities to cut off one of the legs of the Fenrir, but this thing is just like truly monstrous. When she cuts off the leg, it goes and bites the leg because it's so starving. It wants to eat it immediately, and then before that even goes down its throat goes to bite her, and we think, oh shit, she might win this, but no, because it had the leg inside of its mouth, she can't stab it in the mouth where it's vulnerable, and she gets swallowed up, and we think that she's completely dead. Like her arms were bitten off is kind of how I pictured it, and there's blood everywhere, and we're really worried that, oh no, now it's going to turn on our main characters. But then out from the stomach comes Dahlia, that character. She cuts her way free, but it's still not enough. This monster is so terrifying and horrifying that even cutting its free from its stomach, the entrails on the ground, it turns and tears her in half, basically, or bashes her head in against a rock, and starts eating its own inside. So clearly this is just deranged, and it really makes it's more than inhuman. It's very obviously and uncannily unnatural. And I think that was really well executed. So at this very end here, our characters are basically running away as this thing eats its own entrails, and in the distance we see birds flying away, flying north, flying away from the horde that is encroaching.
Yeah, which I think the world building done in this is spectacular. Not only are we thrown into a pretty cool world in the beginning, that a lot of good character work was done in that dialogue, but then later, as soon as that message comes out, I think that's a really great turning point from it, because then from there we are meted by this creature that honestly the writer did a fantastic job at kind of setting up the danger of this creature, and then just watching the furiosity and the bloodlust of this creature was kind of insane to read. So yeah, I thought it did a fantastic job at gripping us and then also taking us through. So really great entry.
Yeah, I was pretty disturbed by this wolf monster.
Very. Well, all right. Up next, and our final one for today is by Wildbow with Fair. And this is a crazy story.
Okay. Fair as in a bus fare. So this is one of Wildbow's stories. So of course, this is a very interesting world. We have our main character, Wetterpan, and Altma. Altma is a dead girl that Wetterpan is working on. Basically appraising the body, and we kind of understand pretty quickly that her body is going to be used somehow, probably. It's something that we sort of pick up over the course of the conversation, that she's likely going to be reanimated or something, or otherwise her corpse is going to be used to for labor, and we kind of understand that she's not going to be herself. But the more important thing here is Wetterpan's negotiations and the revealing of the world with the family of the deceased. So what's interesting is she has 3 parents. The families here mostly have 3 parents because they just need that extra stability of an extra person, and there's interesting different familial roles for each of them. Through looking at them, we understand that there's this thing with religions and cults and trends kind of being exhumed from the earth and adopted in almost fashion trends. Very short-lived, and this annoys Wetterpan because one of these religious trends, whatever the religion of this family, is to burn herbs inside the mouth of the deceased, and that makes her less valuable because it weakens some effects that Wetterpans want to perform on the body. We understand a bunch of other things. Basically, there's no currency in this world. Instead, they just trade favors. Basically, the only people that matter are these families who trade in favors and years of service, essentially. So it's kind of like a false currency that only the rich can use. We finally come to understand this thing about how this world is almost in this continuously collapsing world. We see in how Wetterpan describes the castle where they live, where the solid rocks are more valuable than all the minerals inside of it. That basically this world is full of ruins, and society built on top of these ruins where the ground is so unstable it can collapse. Basically, all of society is built around digging things up from beneath the earth and trying to understand it and trying to sort of reclaim some sort of glory from down there. This peaks when we get to the final bit of world building after a lot of build up. That from the core of the world, which weeps, we get that this world is not a very happy place. Comes these waters that, as they travel over these ancient histories buried beneath the ground, they take on meaning, and depending on the meaning that they picked up and how pure the meaning is, these waters will have different effects. But as they flow from these fountains, these places of pure meaning, the effects get tainted and either less effective or twisted or something like that. And the most important one right now to the story is an offshoot from a fountain of life, which if you drank from the fountain of life, you could bring someone back from the dead if they were recently dead. You could heal any wounds. But this offshoot, this stream, it's been tainted, so it can't do that to people who are alive, but it can bring back the dead as basically zombies or soldiers, and like Stitched in Twig, if you've read that. So that's what our main character is here to do, and he sort of negotiates with the family who's really upset. There's this daughter who has a very interesting, adopted an interesting religious practice, and they're really, upset that they have to do this, that they have to give away her body. But they have to do this because this world built upon reclaiming the past is so unstable that they have to grab onto anything they can.
Yeah, so I really like this one, and I absolutely love Wild Bow's prose. Every paragraph is filled with this striking imagery that just really adds even more so to the feel and the meat of this world. And from the very beginning, we are slowly revealed to this crazy, interesting world that I can just see so many possible stories being in. And then over the course of the story, as it seems to get more and more dire, we are introduced to this, I guess, sort of biological magic that I think is just really, really cool. And I absolutely love the setting of this, and I think this is a must-read, so fantastic job.
Yeah, I think the core theme here about basically this world being full of this crumbling history where people bring back things from the past, but they might be entirely misinterpreted and given an entirely new meaning, but that's not the meaning that really matters. And sort of it seems that nothing in this world is actually remembered as it once was. It's only remembered as a sort of half-baked interpretation.
Yeah.
And it's this very tragic world. Sad story.
Sad world, sad story, but I don't know, it definitely seems to sort of open up to possibility, which I really like from the story. So really great job. So yeah, that is all of the stories for this week, sadly. But we do want to say thank you to everyone who did submit. So thank you very much to Sarah Penguin,
Nipiton,
Paradox,
Bisexual Punch Party,
Ghost Pac-Man 4,
and of course Wildbow.
And also we want to say thank you to everyone who did leave a comment. Leaving a comment not only helps you understand more about your story and find certain things that worked and didn't work, but you can also provide that feedback to someone else, which is the whole point of doing the right thing, right? So thank you very much to Ghost Pac-Man 4, Nippleton, Kippos21, and Paradox. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys did a fantastic job. Thanks.
If you want to be like all of these wonderful writers and submit your story to Do the Right Thing, you can do that by going to our Reddit, which is /r/Do the Right Thing. All you have to do is pick the latest week, use 3 of 4 randomly generated words in a story that you write for 30 minutes, and you go ahead and post it.
That's right. You can find out the words as soon as possible by following us on Twitter, which our Twitter is @RightThingCast. If you don't have a Reddit account or you just want to tell us what's up, you can send us an email at rightthingcast@gmail.com.
Exactly. And if you want to support us and all of the wonderful things that we do on the Doof Network, you can do that by donating to Doof Media Patreon. You can donate as much as $1 per month, and you'll be able to access crazy perks like being part of the Doof Media Discord, along with, of course, supporting the content that you hopefully enjoy listening to.
Very, very confident assertion, that one. At this $10 level, you get access to a bunch of bonus content, and there's some great stuff in the works, I know, and Matt Freeman's doing Freeman Bros with his brother, talking about a lot of philosophical concepts and stuff, but I know I've been talking about this for weeks, but it is happening this week. Jarvis and I are going to record a podcast talking about Puella Magi Magica Magica,
Yes.
and why it's a wonderful anime.
Did we ever come up with a title?
Oh, no, hell no.
Bless you.
So Joey and Colin are back. I don't know if I said that earlier because we're recording this out of order.
hey.
Did you guys ever watch the anime?
Have I ever watched an anime or that?
No, I haven't.
Either is a
I've seen
good
an anime
question
before.
to ask.
I've watched a frequent.
seen
I've
Your
watched
Name?
many anime. I have not seen that one.
Your Name is great.
No.
Your name's pretty good.
no,
It's like
I
one of the
haven't.
3 I've seen.
I think we have an
sad.
episode about that on the Doofcast. I think they liked it, which they normally hate anime, so that's a pretty high bar that it passed. They didn't like Puella Magi Magica Magica, which is why Jarvis and I are going to do a redemption episode.
Prove them
And then
wrong.
we're gonna switch it out. And then take their throne as the Doof Masters.
We'll be
So-
King Doof.
That's right. So that's one of the things that's going on with the Doof Network. In addition, there is a fan art contest going on with the Decomposing Worm and Pale Reflections. Speaking of, go read Pale, which is Wildbow's most recent work, and then listen to that podcast, which is incredible. I really enjoy it. And I'm going to mention it because I know that one of Wildbow's stories was selected this week, even though I'm recording this out of order. If you have even more spare money, go consider donating to Wildbow's Patreon, because that's how he can continue writing not only his money-making stories, but do the side projects like this. Joey, Colin, please, where can we find y'all? Anything you want to plug or say before we go?
Just want to thank you guys for having us on. It was a great time. I really enjoyed collaborating with Joey and writing, and then coming on and talking with you guys.
Thanks for the
I've
idea,
had-
by the way. For the we wouldn't have done the scripts episode if it wasn't for y'all. So
Oh well, thank you so much.
That's great. You can. That's all. Joey. Joey's the beating heart of Keep It Short and everything, and all
yeah,
things
for sure,
creative
definitely.
there.
Yeah, you can follow us at our names on the internet, which is just the best way I've ever said that. And you can listen to Keep It Short. If most people probably came here from Keep It Short, because I can't imagine listening to our voices here and then going to listen to Keep It Short after. I can't imagine.
Right? Yeah. They're like.
Yeah.
They're like,
These
This
guys
is
get
good.
one episode and it's a crossover. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for having us on.
Yeah.
Keep It Short is a film podcast. It's a good time. You can go to KeepitShort SFC on Twitter to find more information about that. You can follow me and Colin at our names on the internet, as I just said. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you for having us on.
yeah, absolutely. We, like I said at the top of the episode, we guested on Keep It Short today as well. We talked about a variety of topics, mostly just our favorite movies and stuff, and it was a really, really good time. In addition, I want to plug Joey's YouTube, because you have some really great content on there, and I really enjoyed it. I'm sorry, Colin, I have not experienced your stuff, but if you do have a YouTube, or short films and things, please tell me, and I will link it, and also tell me right now, and then it will be in audio format.
Yeah, for sure. You can just, I think if you Google my name, Colin Galoon, you can find my YouTube page, which has the most recent short film that I made, which actually has Joey in
Ooh.
it. So you'll be able to see what Joey
That's a
looks
twofer
like
right there.
in real life. Yeah, not just in voice format. And yeah, so if you just do that, you should be able to find me. Follow Joey on TikTok, because TikTok isn't going anywhere.
That's right.
We'll see.
We're looking at band podcasts.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Podcast and
He should do an executive order band podcasts. That would be great.
Finally.
I mean, that would be like the one good thing he's
Yeah, then we
done,
can
you
stop
know?
doing
Like,
this.
yeah.
I mean, I think his approval ratings would like skyrocket after
yeah.
something like that. You know,
I'd vote for him.
Joe Rogan would be like, you know what?
make me reconsider.
I think I'm voting.
I'm voting
for Joe if he's banned in podcasts. Joe Rogan should run for president. And that's my
He will
closing
probably
statement.
get a lot
God,
of voice.
don't even joke. I can't.
King of the
No.
Monkeys, Joe
Oh my
Rogan.
God.
That's my final statement.
Jamie, pull up that clip of me doing an executive order.
That's how he should announce it. He said, Jamie, pull up that clip of the deer getting hit by... Wait, actually, no. Pull up this video. And then it's his campaign video. It's where he announces.
Yeah.
It's his campaign.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. All right. Let's find out next week's words.
Cool. Next week's words are abolish, facts, romantic, and heir.
Wow. All thematic to
You're
the
actually
election.
Gonna get some political things. Like a political romance story. It's like Romeo and Juliet, but it's like a Democrat and a
Alright.
Republican.
Oh, so
Oh my-
Donald Trump and
someone
Joe
could write-
Biden fall in love.
Wow.
Someone could write the next Dave. Do you guys remember that movie?
I
Have you
think
guys?
so.
Do you guys know about Barack Obama and Joe Biden Save the World? I don't know if that's the actual name of the book, but it's basically a fanfic where the two of them do like a spy movie kind of thing.
Oh.
It's
It was
kinda,
originally pitched as an animated series.
It's pretty good propaganda. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
will watch that series.
Like enjoyable propaganda. I mean, I know it's like a joke, but it's
think-
all, like you know, it does what it does.
I think we've progressed far enough as a society, and I think we can stop there.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
we can
that's
end
it.
it.
Okay.
I think that could be the last
Hit the
thing we
back
do.
button.
Okay, so back to the words. So abolish, as in to what? How would you define it? I never look up
Abolish
definitions,
slavery.
by the way.
Get rid of.
Yeah, to end a thing, usually a law. But also you could, I don't know, abolish.
Dictionary.com says formally put an end
Oh,
to
thank you. I'm gonna.
parentheses, a system, practice, or institution.
Okay, it's that last part that I was disappointed. I was like, I'm gonna abolish the person. Formally, facts, not as in the like a factoid, not as in the truth, but a fax as in like a fax machine, where it's a machine that sends a paper from one place to another. Is that what it does? It sends a picture of a paper to another place.
Yeah, and it takes like forever for it to
it prints it
print.
out
Makes that
automatically?
horrible noise.
An image of a document made by electronic scanning and transmitted as data by telecommunication
Wow, we should
links.
just have you on. You,
guys
should take
have
my job,
Colin on,
Colin.
Like without me, I'm
Yeah.
holding him back. So
No, you're not. No, you're not. What are you talking about?
I mean, I wouldn't. You could definitely come back on for sure. I mean, Joey has already been on without you, so it would only be
Yeah.
fair. So, yeah.
It's true. When's the Colin's solo episode?
The Colin
coming?
show.
Everyone's dying for it.
The four words will be Colin, 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 and Colin.
Ooh, that would be great.
So then there's romantic, which is something to have an air of romance, which also could be meaning of like the romantic era, which is an aesthetic movement, or it could be not just the love kind of romance. There's another kind of
Romance?
another kind of romantic. I forget what it is. You could probably do that. That has it. You know, I'll allow it. And last one, air, not as in the thing that you're breathing, but as in like the heir to the throne. So.
Okay.
That was the longest words explanation time that I've ever done. That was a good 10 minutes. Jesus.
Nice.
Because, a couple of those words, maybe someone could get mixed up. You don't want someone throwing in, the word air when you mean
That's
air.
right.
You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
that would be a disaster. I'd have to ban them, from Reddit.
Permaban.
Never be allowed
Yeah.
to post your story again. So, Jarvis, what story are you going to write next week?
Next week, I'm going to write a story about how we abolished paper. You see, in this world, let's say it takes place in 2077. We've cut down almost every single last tree, all to make really thick paper money, because we quickly found out that if people don't like cash or coins, maybe they will like credits, which is like paper money, except it has a different name. And people absolutely loved it because of the different name. You could buy and sell credits used for anything. You could even fax your friend credits if he's having a hard time. But the issue here is that because we have to create so many credits, eventually a lot of the left wingers start hugging trees and chaining their bodies to giant axes, right? So eventually, after about 3 to 4 different elections, the bill finally came to say, oh, it's time to abolish paper, which was signed and it went into law, but it did so right before the second major militia was built to overthrow the president and elect a new heir. And this new heir, goddamn, he loves his paper no matter what. So 1 week after the law was set into place, it was revoked so that paper can be produced on an even greater scale. Romantic.
That was beautiful, Jarvis.
Thank you.
Joey, do you have a story ready for us?
For next week? Yeah, I'm gonna do Avatar fan fiction. And it's gonna take place.
Big.
Yeah, Avatar's pretty big right now. It takes place after the original series, and it's about it's a political thriller, and it's just Avatar Aang and Fire Lord Zuko. Spoilers for a 12-year-old show. And Fire Lord Zuko as they it's as they
old as
change
Aang.
the laws, but they have to go through the proper channels to change the laws, and that's the whole thing.
If you were to use all 4 words in your description, could you do that right now?
Reminded me what the words were.
They are abolish, facts, romantic, and heir. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So they're gonna work together to abolish the very fascist laws of the Fire Nation. Aang is gonna hang out and reestablish the air temples, the air nations and stuff. He's gonna have a very romantic time with Katara and Zuko with May. And what was that last word?
Facts.
I think it's facts.
And everything I said is facts. It's all true.
FAX.
Okay.
Oh, fax machine. That's right. I forgot. Damn. Electricity bending, lightning bending. They're going to invent technology. The fax machine, the Xerox machine specifically, but it's still a fax machine.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I would do a hostile takeover of Nickelodeon just to make this happen.
I'll get slimed.
Colin, do you have a story ready, or do you need another second?
Yeah, I could come up with something. All right, let's see. A couple, their first date, they young yuppie couple, they decide they want to do something silly. So they find the fax number for their local Scientology center, and they decide they're going to fax them hundreds of copies of the Bible in an attempt to waste all their paper, and they'll think it'll be very funny. So they do this because they want to abolish the they want to abolish the predatory institution of Scientology, and they think that by doing this, by wasting their resources, they'll help to diminish them. It's a very romantic night. They're discovering goofy things about each other when suddenly their printer begins to act up, and they get a fax from the Church of Scientology, and it's just a large black piece of paper. And they see it and they go, what could this be? And then they're kind of freaked out by it because they don't know how the Church of Scientology got their fax number, but they continue through the night, and things become increasingly stranger as things begin to crawl out of the black piece of paper, seemingly a void from another world, eventually revealing the heir to L. Ron Hubbard, L. Ron Hubbard Jr. And chaos ensues.
Okay, good. Fade to black.
Air,
you have to
the breathing air. Wow, my bad.
It's all
It's
good.
okay. I forgive you, Joey.
Matthias, what
Sorry.
story are you gonna write next week?
No, I got this. I totally was preparing myself this whole time. So, we have a very romantic story here. Pretty classical. It's about a prince, actually, of a kingdom who's looking for a princess. And the thing that's the problem is that this is in a world where everyone is, at home because there's a plague going around, and so no one can actually see each other. But of course, there wasn't phones back then, so they had to fax each other. And so the heir to the throne, right, this prince is sending these love faxes back and forth with this princess off in the far-off land, which is really, really difficult because the fax machines have to be, generated with the power by horses. Like, they literally use horsepower going around in a circle. It's kind of really intensive. And after the horses die, because, the plague, both kingdoms, both the prince's kingdom and the princess's kingdom, have to employ basically thousands of laborers to power these fax machines, which are basically descendants from the gods and stuff. And over time, the people get really, really, upset about it because, it's pretty tiring to be pulling this fax machine just so they can send little dovey faxes back and forth. And so the people rise up, they break the fax machine, they storm the palace, they throw the heir onto the street, but then they continue on. They continue to the temple, and, it was temples of love because, it's a sort of romantic era. They pull down the goddess of love's statues and everything in an effort to abolish love in general, because that's the true evil of the story. And now that it's abolished, they put the prince back in power, the princess back in power, and everything's cool after that. No faxes. And that's my story.
No faxes.
I love it.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think
Thank
we
you.
all definitely, as a testament to our scripts and the wonderful stories that we told at the end, we all really did the right thing.
Yeah, that's it.